from the right, left, and center. This hour, we're going to talk to Randy Reed. He's with the No on Dougco home rule effort, is opposed to Douglas County becoming a home rule county. And he's going to respond to George Teal, who was on our show yesterday, saying that the first organization in opposition to Douglas County home rule to register was No Kings. So if you're an opponent to Douglas County home rule, are you just a communist agitator? We're going to hear from Randy Reed, who I'm guessing's answer is going to be no, but want to give him his time on air as well. And then 8 o'clock hour, John Decker, White House correspondent, will be joining us from The Hague with NATO and Donald Trump. He'll give us all the latest on the developments happening in the Middle East. And then 9 o'clock, want to talk Donald Trump primarying Thomas Massie. He's going to put together an effort to kick Thomas Massie out. Is this a bad decision to get rid of one of the most conservative, principally conservative members of Congress? Or is Thomas Massie just always a thorn in the side, and every once in a while you got to play on the team you came with? You got to dance with the girl that brought you. This is the Republicans. And why won't he join their effort with the big, beautiful bill? We'll talk about that in the 9 o'clock hour. So now it's time for News and Comment with Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, News and Comment.
Good Tuesday morning. 60 and sunny in Denver, expecting a high of 81 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story.
We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
DJT boiling this
Gosh,
morning.
I love that.
Isn't that awesome?
I love that.
He sounds like my dad. He really does. He's like, you guys get it straight, or else you're going to pay for it.
Right. In some ways, it is like two brothers fighting.
Yeah.
And the dad.
Now you're on your own. Yep, you're on your own now. He's hot with Israel and Iran. Israel says a ceasefire with Iran has already been violated. Israel accused Iran of launching missiles that sent civilians scrambling into bomb shelters. Iran denies firing any missiles after the ceasefire took effect. DJT heads to the NATO summit in the Netherlands. Both countries, we're going to see who they really are in the next few hours.
I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either.
But last night, plenty of reason to be happy.
I can't emphasize this enough, Brett. We have destroyed the Iranian nuclear program. 0 Americans have died. That's an amazing, amazing thing. Americans, whether Democrats or Republicans, we should be celebrating that.
VP J.D. Vance on Fox News Channel.
Our missiles, our bombs were a little bit bigger than their bombs. Our bombs actually accomplished the goal of eliminating their nuclear program. But look, we're happy, again, to restart the peace process as the president just did.
And he continued.
We had a very particular objective. It was profound and difficult to accomplish.
Do you think
the elimination of the Iranian nuclear program.
Do you think they were close?
And I think the president successfully did that. You're asking, were the Iranians close to a nuclear weapon? Brett, they were very close to a nuclear weapon. And what I'd encourage my fellow Americans to think about here is that a week ago, the Iranians were quite close to achieving a nuclear weapon. Now they cannot build a nuclear weapon. That is the biggest testament to the president's leadership and to the success of our mission. In 1 week, without, thank God so far, not losing a single American casualty, we have taken what was a threatening nuclear program that could have destabilized the entire world. Now that program is gone. We did it through effective presidential leadership and also some very, very competent work from our troops.
DJT, the administration, and the pilots did their job. Now it's up to Iran and Israel to do the right thing. Don't hold your breath. AOC and a couple of other clowns want to impeach DJT. Bill O'Reilly.
The Democratic Party sinks deeper into the morass. At first, two of these loons called for Trump to be impeached, even when our military people were in the air.
Yep.
and that's Castins of Illinois and Ocasio-Cortez in New York. If they're not hauled in front of the House Ethics Committee and sanctioned, then we don't have any standards of behavior. These two have to be hauled in front of the Ethics Committee. They have to. You cannot do that in an active war zone, and they did it. And then you had the War Powers Act by Schumer, when Schumer applauded Obama bombing Libya and taking Gaddafi off the map.
Right.
Schumer applauded it. Did Obama get congressional okay for that? No. So the Democratic Party just blown up completely, and the press doesn't know what to do.
On News Nation last night, a Colorado man has died after being struck by lightning in Florida. Investigators say the 29-year-old was standing in the ocean in New Smyrna Beach last Friday afternoon when the lightning strike occurred. He was rushed to the hospital but died from his injuries on Saturday. The man was reportedly on his honeymoon at the time. Fed Chair Jerome Powell will speak before the House Financial Services Committee today. It comes a week after the central bank announced it would be leaving interest rates unchanged for now. He'll be presenting the Fed's semi-annual monetary policy report amid pressure from 47 to cut rates. Stephen Miller says the DJT administration will hold a Boston judge accountable for the Supremes voted to allow the Trump administration
rape, murder, homicide, assault, battery, crimes against children to any country around the world that is willing to accept them. So whether that be South Sudan, or whether it be Somalia, or whether it be Ethiopia, any country in the world that is willing to accept these monsters, we can get them out of our country and be free of them forever. The only thing I have to share tonight, Sean, in a little bit of breaking news, is that the district court judge in Boston has said he's going to defy the Supreme Court's ruling. So expect fireworks tomorrow when we hold this judge accountable for refusing to obey the Supreme Court.
On Fox News channel last night. The Dodgers at the Rockies tonight at 6:40. Oklahoma City, the Thunder, NBA championship parade today. 57 in Parker, 58 in Westminster, 60 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Your 7:10 5-day forecast, still going to have some clouds as we move into Tuesday morning. Temps starting off in the mid-50s, highs low 80s Tuesday afternoon. With daytime sunshine, expect unstable conditions for afternoon and evening, strong to potentially severe thunderstorms. Mid and upper 50s Tuesday night. Low 80s with showers and thunderstorms Wednesday, drying out and warming up. Upper 80s, low 90s Thursday and Friday. Weather brought to you by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather. Schedule your free no-obligation roof inspection at roofingcolorado.com. Meteorologist Don Watzel in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Well, it's going to be 79 today. We've got some severe thunderstorms that may be coming in the afternoon. Scattered storms tomorrow, 81. Sunny and warmer Thursday, 87. Friday, sizzling and sunny, and 92. Saturday, warm and drier, 94. And then Sunday, isolated storms, 87. Oh, it's the best time of year. I absolutely love it. Well, yesterday, George Teal joined us. George Teal is the Douglas County Commissioner, one of the leaders of the Douglas County Home Rule effort. And George was pointing out that, some of the first opponents to Home Rule, registered opponents to Home Rule, were no kings. And then pointing out that Republicans in Congress are investigating no kings for taking money possibly from communists in China and those types of things. So is opposition to home rule in Douglas County rooted in Chinese communism. Well, respond to that. Joining us is Randy Reed. Good morning, Randy. Thanks for joining the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning. It's a beautiful day here in Colorado.
Well, I appreciate you taking time. I know you got a busy day. What do you think of what George Teal said that, opponents to home rule in Douglas County are Chinese communists?
Well, I don't believe that's a factual statement at all, but I think there's a lot more to maybe perhaps what people are opposing home rule at. First, I'd like to say that I'm in favor of home rule. I just oppose the way the county government has gone around to present this to the public. In fact, all the municipalities in Douglas County have a home rule charter. In fact, I was mayor of Castle Rock, and we have a home rule charter. But in my opinion, this is the most monumental decision that the Douglas County residents are probably ever going to make in their lifetime that they're here in Douglas County. I just think better government practices would have better community input before raising this issue. I think what I feel like is open houses to get the feeling of the pulse of the residents of Douglas County. Do we or do we not need home rule, have our own government? It seems like that as big an issue this is to create our own government, so to speak, that we would have a longer timeline. I don't understand this short timeline, why 21 people that apparently have been handpicked by the county commissioners. I know one of my friends was wanting to run on it, and he was told by the people that, we've already got our slate of candidates, so we don't want you to run. That's not the type of government that I want to be involved with. So with that said, I think there just should have been more public input prior to bringing this issue to find out, do the Douglas County residents really want home rule or not? And what do they want that home rule to look like? I hate to say it, but the way this is going now, it's a Nancy Pelosi deal. We got to pass it to find out what's in it. And I don't think that's what I'd call a representative government here in Douglas County.
That's Randy Reed. He's the former mayor of Castle Rock. He is a no on Douglas County home rule at this point with this effort. Now, Randy, could the argument be made, look, the kind of cat's out of the bag at this point. They're going to put the vote to the people. That vote is today. And then, there's going to be a drafting committee. They're going to come up with a charter. Any effort to do home rule would kind of be, as you put it, a Nancy Pelosi effort, because the second stage of it is putting the charter together, and it's hard to know what that's going to look like when you're voting to just put together the committee to put the charter together. What's your response to those arguments?
Well, I think the committee would like to know what the pulse of the residents of Douglas County are as they go in to develop a charter for the county. In fact, my understanding is Weld County's charter, home rule charter, is 950 pages. This group of 21 people that I'm not sure exactly what their expertise is in regards to developing a home rule charter, but they've only got 60 days to do that. And then a short period of time after that to try to get the word out to the residents is what is in that charter. If there's things in there that say, well, let's say we want to give all county employees a 25% raise every year, I don't think anybody would be in favor of that.
And they would have the opportunity to reject that, right, in November with the charter being put together?
Absolutely. There'd be a vote for yes or no, whether to accept the charter or not to accept the charter. But the idea is there'd be a very short period of time to get that information out to all the 400,000 residents of Douglas County.
That's Randy Reed. He's the former mayor of Castle Rock. He is against the vote today regarding home rule in Douglas County. But Randy, you point out you're not against home rule. You just think that the initial process was flawed, was not transparent, was too short. What process would you like to see? Let's say that this comes back as a no vote today in the election. What would be the correct process in your mind in putting this together?
In my mind, when I was mayor of Castle Rock and on town council, what we did is we had what I would call open houses. A number of those meetings, in other words, where we would invite the public to come, and you could present some of the points of home rule that would bring to Douglas County, and then you sit there and listen to what the residents want. Do they agree or disagree, or what do they want? What do they do not want? You would have a number of those. I know, for example, the county has been having many of these type of open houses in regards to transportation here in Douglas County. So that would be just as fitting to have 10 or 12 open house meetings with the general public to find out what their feeling is, what's their pulse on having a home rule charter in Douglas County, and what would that look like? What would they favor? As opposed to just three people throwing this out there on a very short timeline that, quite frankly, to me, feels like a closed-door backroom decision.
That's Randy Reed, former mayor of Castle Rock. We're talking about the home rule in Douglas County that's up for a vote. Randy is a no. So what I want to ask you, Randy, is what are some misconceptions that the voters might have about home rule? What I'm looking for is what are some things that people that think they should vote yes are getting wrong, and maybe some things that even those that agree with you and vote no might be getting wrong about home rule. You've been mayor of Castle Rock. Talk to us about some of the misconceptions that you've seen you bumped into during this discussion and debate.
Well, I would look at it this way, I think. Castle Rock, as I said, has a home rule charter. Okay? So, guess what? We still pay that 10-cent tax on grocery bags. We haven't been able to opt out of that. Guess what? Due to state mandate and health department mandates during the COVID period of time, guess what? We still had to adhere to all that. Guess that in gun laws that the state passes, we still have to adhere to that. I would say some of the misconception is that it's been presented that we aren't going to have to, if we don't agree with a state legislator on legislation on a law or ordinance they pass, that we can opt out of it. That's not true. There is some modification that takes place, but you can't just absolutely opt out.
Now, Randy Reed, former mayor of Castle Rock, what do you think is the largest advantage for Douglas County declaring themselves a home rule, and what is the largest disadvantage? We'll get into the functionality, why you disagree about this particular process, but what do you feel Douglas County would gain as far as being a home rule county, and then what would they lose? What are the possible disadvantages of becoming home rule?
I think I'm not in a position to actually go down that road right now, and the reason I say that is because you'd have to see what is written in this charter. What is that charter? That's where we could gain things. Do we want to do away with term limits? I don't think the residents of Douglas County want that, but we have to know what's in there. Right now, I have no idea what would be in a charter that would be a positive for the county or be a takeaway for the county.
Interesting. So this is Randy Reed, former mayor of Castle Rock. We are talking about the vote on Douglas County home rule. Got a question for you. We do have another vote that is happening later this year. Could that second vote be kind of a do-over for this vote? And what I'm asking about is, let's say there are some potential listeners here on the Jeff and Bill show, and you're a no, Randy Reed, former mayor of Castle Rock, but maybe there are some listeners that could be possible yeses. They've been persuaded and they still say, well, Randy makes some good points, but I still like the idea of home rule. Does the potential vote in November give them a do-over, possibly if they have buyer's remorse? Or does this not contain a buyer's remorse option coming up in November? Is this much more serious than some voters out there may be led to believe? They may think, well, if I don't like it, I can just change it in November.
Absolutely. I think that's a great point. It is kind of a do-over. we would have a charter written in 60 days, and then there would be from September until November 4th that we could get the charter out to the public that they could see what's in it or what's not in it. And so if someone votes yes today, tonight, then November they could look at that and say, oh, I don't like this, or this isn't good, I think, for the residents. I don't think this is good for the county. And then they could vote no. You're absolutely right. The key there is that I'm not quite in favor of is that I think this is such a monumental decision for the residents of Douglas County. There needs to be a lot longer time frame for people to find out what's in this charter. Actually, I think the 21 people need more than 60 days to write it. If Weld County, and that's the only thing I can really go on, has a 950-page home rule charter, I don't know that can properly be developed in only 60 days. And you're right. In November, somebody could vote yes today, and they could turn around and vote no in November. You're absolutely right.
That's Randy Reed, former mayor of Castle Rock. He's an opponent to Douglas County Home Rule, which is on the ballot today. If you live in Douglas County, today's the day. You got to drop it off, or you got to vote in person. You can no longer mail it. Today's the day. We'll be watching those results. Randy, really appreciate you taking time to provide a counter argument to George Teal yesterday and helping inform our listeners. Really appreciate it.
Well, the most important thing is please go out and vote today, Douglas County residents, and we'll see what the outcome is. And I'm always here for the positive side of Douglas County.
Oh, we'll really appreciate your time. Randy Reed, former mayor of Castle Rock. All right, we'll continue. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Wrapped up a conversation with Randy Reid, former mayor of Castle Rock, who says he's not against home rule. He just thinks this process was so rushed, so non-transparent, that it's not fair to Douglas County voters and should be rejected at this point. Now, you will get a second bite at the apple in November. So the way it works is today's ballot here in Douglas County, or just outside here, Douglas County, the ballot has yes or no on home rule, and then who should be on the chartering commission. And they're going to go off, if it's a yes vote today, they're going to go off on a 60-day process to come up with the charter. Then there'll be debates as to whether or not support that charter, and you'll get to vote on that in November. Now, some of the text messages on this are nobody has come up with a single negative about being home rule yet. They just don't like this process. I think the cat's out of the bag in this. Whether or not you like it or not, how many meetings do they need to have for you to feel happy that the process was transparent? I think the real vote's in November. So in my mind, this is like, shall we form a committee type of meeting? Shall we form a committee to go out there and put together a charter about being home rule and who should be on that committee? It's not a final vote to embrace the charter, which is in November. I don't live in Douglas County, but I've told my friends that if I lived in Douglas County, it'd be a yes vote.
Yeah, the one thing that's weird with me in the home rule is, again, I've got no dog in the fight. I'm not in Doug. It doesn't matter. So my opinion on it, but I feel like what has been promised by the ability of home rule may not be what is gathered and gained by home rule.
I think you're exactly right. I think there's been an overpromising that's taken place.
I think it's a problem, and I think part of it is what Randy Reid is talking about, is saying that this really comes down to what is written in the charter. And part of what, when I was pushing Randy, when I asked Randy about the idea of voting for it now and then not in the fall, is the Nancy Pelosi conundrum. Back with Obamacare, it's we have to pass the bill to find out what's in the bill. That I kind of hear the idea of the proponents at this point, well, we have to pass it to see if we like it. I'm not so certain about that, so I am persuaded on Randy's argument that we don't know everything that's in the charter. This isn't enough time to digest it and to look at all of the possible consequences of what would happen, because I do feel that there is a potential promising that has been done by the pro-home rule people that some of that stuff may not be contained in the charter. It seems like I've heard at times that the charter becomes a catch-all, that whatever hopes, dreams, or aspirations you have, this can do it. It's like it's a magical imaginary machine.
We have declared our independence from the libs of Colorado.
Exactly. It's a magical independent machine that if we wish it to do this, that we all get free ice cream on a Tuesday, then guess what? Free ice cream on a Tuesday is going to be in the charter. I'm worried that that's part of the sales pitch that's happening with home rule. That it's perfect because we can do anything.
I think you're correct in the sense that there has been some over-promising that can't be delivered legally in this home rule. But I'm not quite sure the Nancy Pelosi is equivalent. The claim that it's a Nancy Pelosi bill is equivalent, because actually what you're doing is voting to form a committee.
Okay, that's fair.
You're not voting to actually put the charter together in the sense that, well, let me restate that. You're not voting on the charter itself to find out what's in the charter later. You're voting to put together a committee and who's on that committee.
Okay, that's fair.
So you could do a no vote today that just says, no, I don't even want the committee to be formed. That's what today is. Today is, I don't even want the committee. Versus, yes, I want the committee. Here's who's on the committee. And I'm going to reserve my judgment on the actual charter until a little bit later in November to see what's into it. Now, Bill, here's where I think this thing is going to go. And I could be wrong on this.
Yeah.
All right. Like anything else in life, when you get a group of people together in a committee to write a bill, you could write a one-page bill that says, Douglas County is so wonderful. People should live here.
Yeah.
And that initial bill.
You forgot the free ice cream.
Yeah, it's going to end up with free ice cream.
Yes.
It's going to end up with everything imaginable in it. And here's what I think will probably happen. Unless they can keep it very small and limited. I mean, look, our Constitution is pretty small. Our Declaration of Independence, pretty small.
Yeah, it didn't have lobbyists back then, though.
Exactly. So, but here's what will happen. I think they could put together such a monstrosity that everybody finds something in it they don't like, and that becomes the reason for a no vote.
Ooh, now
so you could end up with a 400, like he said, what was it, 90-page home rule?
90-page, something like that,
out of Weld County, and then the campaign to oppose it just find something you don't like in there.
Now, my friend, as we did in the 6 o'clock hour, I like to take sometimes what you say and then turn it on its head 180 degrees. So, and also to refer back to the disagreement we had earlier. Again,
on that
I love
note,
you so much. Yeah. So, with respect, what if we, and again, I'm doing that again.
Dude, the text messages on that
exactly,
line
exactly. And I'm doing that tongue in cheek because, again, we had fun in the 6 o'clock hour if you didn't join us. So, could we possibly say that if we create the home rule charter, like you say, that everybody has their little special interest or a whole bunch of stuff in there, and we end up with some large, over 100-page charter,
a big beautiful bill?
Yes,
some
that's
might
what
say.
I'm saying. Is the argument for the big beautiful bill? Can we use it for the home rule? Saying, well, yeah, you're going to disagree with some stuff, but on the whole, this is so good. Why are you letting this little piece about the thing that's annoying you destroy what is a big, beautiful home rule charter? Could we be making that argument come November?
100%.
Oh,
you could, and I'm not quite sure it would carry in the sense that you need to have somebody with so much leverage like Donald Trump has to just whip the cats into shape.
Yeah, that's true. And voters aren't looking for re-election. So their voting motivations are maybe so wholly different than looking at getting elected representatives voting in a certain direction. Yeah,
so
good point.
I would be a yes vote, and I would encourage a very streamlined home rule charter. I just think that that's the best way to get it through. I mean, you fit it on a few pages.
Yeah,
as opposed to something that's just jam-packed full of every thought. Because you get a committee together, and that's what happens.
Yeah.
It's just
the
like,
thing,
well, what about
I guess
this?
the core for me, and again, I have no dog in the fight. I'm not in Dougco, so I can't vote and probably shouldn't anyway. So the thing for me is...
John laughed.
I know John laughed on that one. He's like, "Oh yeah, Bill shouldn't vote." The thing for me is who's on the committee. And so if I'm going to give any advice to any voter out there, I'm not going to tell you vote yes or vote no. What I'm going to tell you is spend at least an hour or so looking at who's on the committee and do you trust them. If you don't know who they are, you can decide whether or not you trust how they've been put together or not. And so that's the idea is, do you think you're going to trust the committee? If you think you're going to trust the committee, then you have at least the idea of taking a flyer and seeing what they do in November. If you don't trust the assembled or the potential assembled individuals, then it's an easy no vote. So that's the idea for me, is that I think what Jeff has been talking about is who's going to be there, who's going to have the ear of the individuals that are writing the charter. And as Randy Reed talked about, what is that process and procedure? And Randy has some skepticism about it. Some of our text messengers do. But yesterday, George Teal, huge proponent of it. So I think for me, if I was going to recommend for anybody, I'm not going to tell you vote yes or vote no. That's up to you. But I would say that maybe your line of choice should be dependent upon who's on the committee and whether or not you trust them to make decisions that will be in line with what you want. That's it. And then go from there. Yeah. This could be interesting, though.
I don't think this is earth-shattering. It's basically a vote to create a committee.
Yeah.
And you'll have another bite at the apple.
Yeah.
So, put the committee together, see what they can come up with.
And for all of you that have been just living your life and saying, I could have served in Congress, I could be a state legislator. This is what they do. They vote to create committees. And then the actual thing that happens
exactly
later
why
on.
I will never be an elected official.
It's one of the many reasons I will never be. But this is your chance to live like those others that you've always dreamed of. Yes, you get to vote to have a committee, and then you get to vote again on what the committee does. Yeah, that's the life of a lawmaker.
All right. Join the conversation. If you are passionate about this, I'd be happy to hear from you and take your phone call. Tell us why Douglas County should be a home rule county. Happy to hear from you. Phone lines are open. Or Do you agree with Randy? Maybe you're a home rule type of person, but you didn't like the process. And so this becomes a no vote to send a message that the process needs to improve next time. Or maybe, third option, you think home rule is a disaster to begin with. Phone lines are open. Give us a call, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115, 720-819-5115. All right, Mountain High Appliance got some good deals going on right now, everybody.
Yeah, we got to go to Mountain High Appliance because, listen, you know it's summer right now, okay? So all those little ankle biters are at home, and it's like, I'm hungry. You got to make breakfast. You're looking at lunch. You're looking at dinners. Yeah, summer is supposed to be the easy time, but you're making more meals, and you've got everybody running around the house. Those little tiny annoyances that you've been having with some of those appliances inside your kitchen, those are huge annoyances right now, and they're not going to get better. We got 4th of July coming up. We got celebrations rolling through August. Now is the perfect time to redo that kitchen. Not talking about remodeling, I'm talking about taking those appliances and upgrading them while also saving thousands of dollars. And our friends at Mountain High Appliance will do that for you, and Jeff's going to tell you how.
Exactly right. Their huge 4th of July clearance sale at all their locations, including the Denver Clearance Center, taking place now. Check out their display models, closeouts, and scratch and dents from brands like GE, LG, Bosch, and more. Enjoy their special financing options and price match guarantee. Experience the difference today when you think appliances. Think locally owned Mountain High Appliance. All right. Happy to take phone calls, texts. This is the final day to make your argument on Douglas County Home Rule and the creation of the committee and the charter. Charter hasn't been fully drafted. That'll be a vote in November. But should Douglas County take this step? Join the conversation. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. So Billy and I, it got hot in the 6 o'clock hour, which is exactly what we designed it to be sometimes.
Yes, it did.
And this is a good text message that really summed it up. This comes from 3981. Been listening to Peter when he started in Denver. Enjoyed you, Bill, and George working together. You and Jeff are the best in Denver now. Kind of the old Hannity and Combs when you go national news. The difference, views from the middle right center and middle left center. So, thank you.
Oh, that's very nice. That is
Very
very
nice.
That's the only. I just have a slight concern about I didn't know the bars were open this early. Person's obviously drunk. I didn't know. Did you just not go home, or I'm curious about your choices you're making. But I support you. And again, if alcohol helps you enjoy the show, I'm all for it.
Hey, we got 2 text messages. I'm not kidding. Of people referencing the fact that they had to take extra heart medicine.
Yeah, so sorry. And again, that's on me.
We got the blood pressure going this morning.
Yeah, and the thing is, the assumption is, I know that's on me because I did the same thing to my parents.
Well,
so when that's mentioned, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm doing it again.
Andrew got fired up and called in. That was awesome.
Oh, that was
so
awesome.
thank you to everybody for that.
Yeah.
The debate happens here on the Jeff and Bill Show. Speaking of debate, today is Douglas County home rule vote. What do you think? Let's go to the phone lines. Oh, we have the district attorney from Judicial District 23 on, George Brockler. Good morning, Jorge.
Thanks for having me on. And I have to say, you guys know this is true. I listen to the show every day, but for reasons outside of my control, I could not listen to the 6 o'clock hour, and now I regret it. And I knew it would happen. Do you know what I mean? It's like the one time you don't tune in, and now you're like, oh, this was the one. Now I have to go back and podcast it. God.
So
you're going to have to.
There's an element, but Bill and I are both master debaters, and it becomes a almost like a sport.
Yeah, it does.
And so we'll both go right at it, real hard, and then you have to go to your corner and take a break because it got intense.
Oh, yeah. And then afterwards, you got to be able to shake hands and stuff. But it was great.
Recover.
Yeah. Yep.
Honestly,
just like pro
the
wrestling.
transcript of this isn't going to play well when you talk about master debater, go real hard. I think people are going to lose sight of what you're talking about. I know it's radio. I do.
There's a T-shirt there somewhere, but we're not going to print another one yet for a while.
It's got Kyle's name on it.
Yes, exactly.
Hey, thanks for having me on to chit-chat about this home rule thing.
Yeah, what's your thought about this? Because we're hearing from both sides, and a lot of the idea of how this charter is created. It would do a lot of great things, but then, as we heard from Randy Reid, former mayor of Castle Rock, some questions about putting together the committee and putting together the charter in this manner. How do you fall on this one? What's your feelings?
First, huge fan of Randy Reid. Guy's 101st Airborne Screaming Eagle out of Vietnam. The dude is all-world American. Love that guy. But I disagree with him on this. A couple things. I'm a huge proponent of going down the home rule route. And I've heard people say different things about it, and I completely understand the sensation that this thing feels like it's being rushed and that we should be spending more time. The problem is the calendar isn't created like that. The calendar says if you're going to have a second of 2 statutorily mandated elections in November, you do backwards planning and get yourself in a place where it had to have been launched the time it was, or we wait until next year. Well, next year sucks, because next year is all going to be about who's our senator, who's our governor, who's our attorney general, who's going to control Congress. It's going to absorb every bit of ounce of attention and effort out there. And so this thing would fly way under the radar. Right now, and you guys are proof, this show is proof, it is the only thing on the ballot. It dominates conversations by those people who are engaged. So I disagree. I think the timing was one that had to happen, and I'm in favor of us trying to do this now when it doesn't get lost amongst the other political nonsense. I do think there's probably a good argument there that, man, should we have, and by we I mean the county, should we have gone bigger and bolder with the public access and comment part? Yeah, I'm open to that criticism, but it doesn't change the road that we're on or where I think we need to end up going. And at the end of the day, and your interview with Randy proved this, in my opinion, nobody can say what bad happens by virtue of home rule. No one can say, well, if we're home rule, all of a sudden they're going to come away and rip up our streets, or they're going to close down our schools, or they're going to take away our electricity, or nothing like that happens. In fact, I'm no expert on, the superpowers it gives us, and I'm a bit skeptical about some of the claims that get made. But what I do know is that it gives us more standing and more ability, longer term, to push back against state encroachment on local control than we have right now. And if that's the only thing that's positive that grows out of this, I'm all in favor of it.
And that's kind of where I fall on this too. And again, I'm not a voter in Douglas County. Neither is Bill. I'm out in Elbert. Bill's in Arapahoe. But, you're going to get another bite at the apple on this. It's basically a vote as to whether or not we form a committee and who's on that committee. And then they're going to spend 60 days putting together the charter. If they come out with a monstrosity that you don't feel like is right or fair, well, then November, it's a no vote.
That's right. You kill it. That's exactly right. That's the beauty behind the two votes. I get Mayor Reed's point of view too, which is, look, in 60 days, how are they going to be able to craft this thing? I don't know the answer. I presume there's going to be public engagement and meetings and things that you can core request. I presume all that's going to happen. But at the end of the day, Jeff, you're 100% right. If we look at this and people go, yikes, man, they just extended the term limits for commissioners to infinite, then we just kill it in the crib. But having met with these officials that put this thing together and having met with some of the people that are running for this, my sense of it is that there is absolutely no interest in blowing up the pay for county attorneys, blowing up term limits for people, creating all these. Nobody is interested in doing that. Really what they're interested in doing is creating an ability to create more distance between what the people under the Gold Dome, who we have zero influence over, and how we govern ourselves in Douglas County. And my hope is, if this thing is successful and it works out, that other counties will take note. We didn't need to do this 10 years ago. We didn't need to do this 20 years ago because state government respected the idea of local control. Well, you guys have talked about this on a day-to-day basis through the legislative session. Legislation doesn't care about local control anymore. They care about outcome-driven legislation. And their outcome is we want this universal application of whether it's Second Amendment stuff, transgender stuff, educational stuff. They don't give a crap about local control. And so this is a response to that. And I'm all in favor of responding to what the legislature is doing.
Now, George Brockler, District Attorney, Judicial District 23, if the Home Rule Charter could do something to improve your office, your ability to prosecute, those types of things, what would you want them to do?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't really see there being a direct impact from Home Rule on us. And the reason for that is we are a state office. I am a separately constitutionally described state elected official, even if I just represent one of the judicial districts. The state laws, well, they're not going to be able to change the criminal code. The bigger issue are the things that they're going to be able to do in terms of pushing back on the state and maybe even shoring up from extra resources or responsibilities or authorities for local law enforcement like the sheriff, will those things have an indirect impact on the success that we can have in the courtroom? Now, I can't tell you all the county ordinances that can be drafted. I can't tell you the things that they can do that might set them apart from the state where we start writing charges based on those county ordinances instead of state statutes. But they're out there, and it's worth exploring. And it's worth exploring because it's not an unchecked power we give to the commissioners. If we want to change the commission, we get to do it. We get to do it on the ballot, and that's really about the only way we can get to do it. So there's no direct impact for me. Like, there's no way that they could say, we love George Brockler. We're going to give him 4 10-year terms, or something. They can't do that. They can't change my pay. They can't do a single thing to embolden, empower, or really hurt my office directly. It's the indirect stuff that I'm in favor of, and that is helping local law enforcement like Darren Weekly out at the sheriff's office.
That's George Brockler, former talk show host, current district attorney, holding the bad guys responsible for all the stuff they're doing. Got a question for you, George, about the idea of home rule. Had someone chime in on the text messages that inside of Lakewood, it, in their opinion, hasn't worked out so well, that once they got some progressive members on the local city council, the idea of home rule went into, in their opinion, more of a liberal fever dream. Is that a possible detriment to Douglas County home rule in your mind?
It's a possible outcome, but I don't know that you can say detriment, and here's why. Right now, we have no influence over an incredibly lefty progressive legislature that passes all of these laws and puts all of these other in place on us to encroach on our local control. If the response to that is, well, if we shift some of that authority to the commissioners, what if they become super progressive and extremely left? That's a real possibility, Bill. As you know, the demographics are changing all the time. Highlands Ranch is bluing all the time. But the short answer should be for any conservative, for anyone who's interested in a government that is closest to the people being best, is that we can influence those people a hell of a lot more than we can influence the Denver Boulder mob up there under the Gold Dome. Like, you can run into these people at ballparks, at supermarkets, at the movie theater, on the street. You have the ability to influence them. Your vote for a county commissioner weighs 8 billion times more than your I can't vote for the person from Boulder. It seems to me if the argument is, well, what about the progressives? That's always going to be out there. I just want them closer to home. I just want to be able to influence them closer to home.
George Brockler, District Attorney, Judicial District 23, taking time to talk about a home rule this morning. Big vote today. Last question to you, George. What do you think is going to happen in this vote?
Well, I don't know. I don't know because, you know, the one downside of an off-year election, and Jeff, you've lived this, man, doing the campaigns, is voter turnout tends to be extremely low, and it amplifies the voices of the engaged.
Yeah, how about a June election?
Yeah, I mean, and June, people are thinking about summer and all this other stuff. I mean, 50 people could vote in the thing. I'm kidding, but you know what I'm talking about. Like, this election is going to be much more challenging than the November one. I think it could go either way. I voted in favor of it. I've been encouraging everyone in my circle to vote in favor of it because at the end of the day, if you ask the other people involved, what's the downside? Like, what hurts us about it? They don't have an answer.
Great way to sum it up. George Brockler, thank you for taking time to join us this morning.
Thanks for having me, I guess. Keep up the great work. I'll have to listen to 6. See ya.
See ya.
All right, we'll continue. We got John Decker with the president joining us next. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.